All right, so before we start talking about how to solve equations by factoring, how to factor, I want to mention an acronym that's often used to help people remember, and that's called FOIL. Okay, so it's kind of like PEMDAS. It's similar to the acronym people use to remember order of operations, and FOIL means first, outside, inside, last. You can see the F stands for first, the O stands for outside, and so on. And let me show you a really simple example of how this works. So let's say we were to do 12 times 12. We already know, hopefully, that that equals 144. But think of it this way. You could write 12. It would be unusual to do it this way, but you could write 12 as 10 plus 2 because that's what 12 equals. And similarly, you could write 12 plus 12, or 12 times 12. You could write it as 10 plus 2 times 10 plus 2. Here's what FOIL means. FOIL means you take the first terms in each parenthesis. So the first term in that parenthesis is 10. First term in that parenthesis is 10. So the first term would be 10 times 10, and that equals 100. Okay, the O stands for outside. So the outside term in this parenthesis, the one that's on the kind of the outer part, is 10, and the one that's on the outer part over here is 2. So 10 times 2, that would give you 20. Okay, the I stands for inside. So if you look at this, the inside term in the parentheses is 2. The inside one here is 10. So that's going to be 2 times 10, and that also equals 20. And then finally, the last term in this parentheses is going to be 2. That comes last. It comes after the 10. And the last term over here is also 2. So 2 times 2 equals 4. And now all we need to do is add these together. So 100 plus 20 plus 20 plus 4, that equals 144, which is what we started with up here. So FOIL is just a fancy way of using the distributive property, which basically means you take each number in here and it gets multiplied by each number here, and the same with the second number, same with the 2. Okay, so let's do an example now with some actual x's. So this is what's called a binomial. Binomial meaning two terms. Like a bicycle has two wheels, a binomial has one term right there and one term right there. And here's another binomial. Okay, so we'll use FOIL again. So first, outside, inside, last. So the first term, x times x. And another way of saying x times x is x to the second power, or x squared. Okay, the outside terms would be x times 4. Okay, x times 4, and that equals 4x. Okay, the inside terms on each parenthesis is 3 times x, and that equals 3x. And then finally, the last terms would be 3 times 4, and that equals 12. And now all we have to do at the end is just add these together. So the x squared stays as it is. The 4x plus the 3x, those are like terms, so you would get 7x. And then finally you have the plus 12, and there is your answer. That's how we use FOIL. So right now I want you to try to pause the video and see if you can try a few more on your own. So these that you see right here, see if you can FOIL those out. And when you give it a try, hit play again, and we'll go through these. All right, so hopefully you've given these a try. So we'll practice foiling each of these out. So the first terms would, in this case, would be x times 7x, and that equals 7x squared. Okay, the outside terms would be x times 8, and that equals 8x. Okay, and sometimes some of my students will use this color-coded system like I'm showing you just when they're first learning it. It helps kind of visualize a little bit better. So the inside terms, negative 4 times 7x, and that's negative 28x. And remember the 4 right there, it's a minus 4. That's why I'm using a negative 4. And then finally the last terms, negative 4 times 8, and that's going to give us negative 32. So now when we add all these together, we would get 7x squared. 8x plus negative 28, or 8x minus 28, is minus 20. And then finally plus negative 32, another way to write that is minus 32. So there is the answer for that one. Okay, this one right here, if we FOIL this out, so first terms, v times 3v would be 3v squared, because this is really like a 1v, so we're doing 1 times 3, which is 3, and we're doing v times v, which is v squared. The outside terms would be v times negative 2, which is negative 2v. Okay, the inside terms, negative 6 times 3v would be negative 18v. And then finally the last terms, negative 6 times 12 would be positive 12. So when we add these together, usually the only things are going to be like terms are these middle ones. So negative 2 plus negative 18 is negative 20. And that's the answer right there. That's as far as we can go. Alright, and then the last one right here, the first terms are going to be 5u times, that's a 1u right there, 5u times 1u would be 5u squared. Okay, then the outside terms will be 5u times negative 6v. And how do you do that? Well, you do 5 times negative 6, which is negative 30, and you do u times v, which is just uv. There's no way you can simplify those any further because they're not like terms. The inside terms would be 8v times u, and that's 8uv or 8vu. It doesn't matter which order you put the variables. And then finally the last terms would be 8v times negative 6v. 8 times negative 6 is negative 48, and v times v is v squared. So our final answer is going to be 5u squared minus 30 plus the 8. Negative 30 plus 8 is negative 22. And we still have the uv, and then finally minus 48v squared. And that is how you use FOIL. So keep that in mind when we do the next section, which is on how to actually factor things.